Yep, this used to be normal. Crystal Shield used to be a very, let's just say, interesting item. It gave you a long period of invincibility, where the boss could target you pointlessly, making itself a sitting dummy to yourself and other players, as if you're a decoy or something. And if you combine this with the eye ring, every time you got hit during the invincibility period, even though you didn't take damage, you would shoot back 350 damage per bullet you got hit by, dealing a stupid amount of damage for almost no risk, and people were loving it. And then it got reworked, and people were pissed. How the Crystal Shield exactly worked is by holding space you gave yourself invincibility at the cost of 40 mana per second and 10 speed, and it also gave you slow for 5 seconds, so that slow would be gone if you held the invincibility for at least 5 seconds. So you can imagine why Deca saw this as a problem. It was already trivializing some endgame bosses such as Oryx Free and the Forgotten King, but as Deca wanted to add more interesting and difficult phases reliant on dodging, like with the new Moonlight Village and hard mode dungeons, Deca didn't want you to just be able to hold space throughout the bosses. So the Crystal Shield went through a controversial change. Instead of the invincibility that it used to provide, it now provides armored. So yeah, basically everyone, especially Sea Shield enjoyers or previous Sea Shield enjoyers, wrote off the item as something not worth being farmed for, especially for where it drops from. But what if I told you this shield could still be super insane? Something that I haven't mentioned yet is that the new version of the Sea Shield has almost the same effect as the eye ring. This shield also shoots back shots when being hit in the same direction as it was shot from, 300 damage on average per shot, as long as you are armored, which of course is what the shield provides when you hold down space. It also will reflect shots if you're getting armored from other sources like the Marble Seal. So now if you use the Sea Shield and the Eye combo, it does roughly double damage on paper, but of course it's at the steep cost of losing the long periods of invincibility that the shield used to give. Well, believe it or not, knights can technically still become invincible. There's 2 armors that knights can use that grant invincibility. There's the Royal Guard's Cuirass from the Shadows, and then there's an armor that does not exist in my game apparently because it never drops! The Heavy Matrix armor from the UFO. They're both really similar. With the Royal Guard's Cuirass, when shooting while in combat, it provides invincibility for 1.6 seconds every 20 seconds, while the Heavy Protective Matrix would apply invulnerability for 1.4 seconds whenever taking damage below 50% HP, which applies instantly so it prevents you from getting insta-killed, and it has a cooldown of 3 minutes. Now to show the Sea Shield to its full potential, I do think you need both the armors, but as I mentioned before, they will not drop despite killing hundreds of UFOs. But luckily I became a Deca partner again recently, and the devs were nice enough to give me access to the testing servers, where I could just spawn them in. So how the hell do you play with all these items? Well, firstly with the Royal Guard's Cuirass, as long as you've been shot, within a few seconds, depending on how much vitality you have, the game considers you in combat. And when you shoot while you have this armor equipped, you get the 1.6 second invincibility, so you can time it. And with the alien armor, that one grants invincibility when you've been shot under 50% HP, and that's 1.6 seconds invincibility. To be honest, this is super challenging to learn. I think Sea Shield might be the highest skill required item in the game right now, but I see so much potential if you do get good at it, potentially more than the old one, because of how much damage it does now. You need to learn bosses really well in order to know what phases you can go in on with just armored from the ability, when to equip items for invulnerability, and when to get the hell out. Let me show you a few examples from my very limited experience trying to learn the combos. So the build depends on how many different shots the enemy shoots at you when you stand on it or near it. So when I versed the Stone Guardians, I wasn't doing too much damage against them, and they weren't doing too much to me either, especially because the defense of the Knight and Armored was reducing the damage of each shot just so much. I honestly felt I was doing slightly less damage than if I was just using an escutcheon build, to be honest. So you have to find out when it's better to use escutcheon or Sea Shield, because to be honest, escutcheon is fucking broken and it's gonna be more usable in more scenarios, but when Sea Shield is usable, it pops off, because let me show you this. We now move on to Janus. I clear the orbs. Janus gets ready to shoot. I sit on Janus, getting ready to use my Sea Shield. I swapped my Crystal Shield gear and I use my alien armor because I know I'll be insta-killed if I don't. And then look, when it shoots, I deal 60,000 damage in a single second. No other class in the game can do that. But I almost also die because I stood in it for too long, and the invulnerability wore off. Whoopsies. I could have swapped to the other armor for more invincibility, but anyway. Then I stand on it for what feels like a fraction of a second, and boom, the Janus dies, and it dies so quickly, it doesn't even drop the Cord of Oryx. This shows the insane potential of the Sea Shield, and I'm barely even using it properly. As you can imagine, this just obliterates early game bosses like Snakepit for example, and Abyss, until it destroys me because I forgot this phase armor breaks, and so much damage happens so quickly. Here's another example, but this time instead an endgame boss, Dharma. I walk up to it, sit on it in the first phase, and I didn't think it would do this little damage. I equipped the UFO armor expecting it to proc, and I do like 44k damage in 5 seconds. And also watching the footage back, I could have stayed on the boss, but when it went into the next phase with the UFO armor on, to deal even more damage. I definitely could have done a lot more given how many shots are coming out in this phase compared to the last. I wouldn't be surprised if it was another 60,000 damage in a single second, and that would push him straight into the knife wall phase. All I did was give him a wimpy little kiss with my cuirass. And then I go in on this phase that looks basically identical to the first phase, but I didn't know these piercing armor shots come into the middle like this, and didn't have invulnerability ready, so I got wrecked. But I think I could have done way more damage than the 44k in 5 seconds in the first phase, given that this one has extra shots. Point is, there's so many phases where you can use this, you just gotta learn where. Here, someone is doing 80,000 damage to the first Shatters boss in a single second. Yeah, this shield can be pretty damn crazy, and I haven't even shown you the second massive reason why Sea Shield has so much potential now. Moonlight Village came soon after Sea Shield got reworked, and maybe this is related, but did you know the Sea Shield can cost 0 mana? If you press space with the Sea Shield equipped really quickly without holding it down at all, it will use it and not consume any mana at all. What does this mean? It means you can proc other items that require ability usages for free. You might have seen throughout this video thus far that I've had way too many flames chasing me. Well, instead of doing nothing before you go in with Sea Shield like before, you can spawn one of these flames every 1.5 seconds. Now what the flames exactly are, they're flames that spawn from Moonlight Village items, specifically the new reworked Moonlight Village armors and the ring. There's 3 different types of flames and they have 3 different levels. At level 1 the orange one curses, at level 1 the pink one gives healing, and at level 1 the blue one slows. The heavy armor from the Moonlight Village spawns the slow one, and similarly if you have the ring, that one also spawns a random level 2 flame. The way you level these flames is as long as you have another color, all of them go up 1 level. So if you do have 3 different flame colors at once, they're all level 3, which makes the flames deal an extra 200 damage, except for the pink one, which heals you an extra 20 health per second per pink flame. And if you use the Sea Shield properly, you can actually stack up 6 to 8 of these at one time. So there's a high chance that you have multiple healing flames, which will be able to sustain you through taking damage when you're using a Sea Shield. There's a high chance that you have a slow, which makes using your Sea Shield easier, and there's a high chance of you cursing the enemy, which will make your Sea Shield and other sources of damage deal more damage, as long as you're within a 3 tile radius of the enemy, which if you're using a Sea Shield, there's no doubt. And you will not believe how much damage the flames do. Just the flames themselves did 17,000 damage to the 7 defense target dummy. That's 5,000 more damage than Divinity Sword, or 3,000 more damage than Escutcheon Shield. But it quickly decreases with enemy defense and decreases to 9k damage against a 50 defense target, which is 3,000 less than Divinity Sword. But the fact that the flames alone will do on par damage with an endgame sword is pretty mental. It's also worth mentioning that you can actually use the flames while you're quieted as well, since they cost 0 mana. Now if we're being real, this shield is not as good as Escutcheon, but Escutcheon is just so stupidly broken at the moment. It got needlessly buffed, and now it's just good in all situations, even though it's designed for steel targets because it does a beam in the same location repeatedly for a few seconds. Even my friend Charizard did a solo void with just the shield, but there's no doubt times that you can swap from your Escutcheon to your Sea Shield to do way more damage than the Escutcheon could even dream of doing. And it's all about finding those times, while also finding the times that you're better off just using Escutcheon. But yeah, Sea Shield is no doubt in my opinion the highest skill required item to use right now, and will take a long time to find anyone to optimize the gameplay around it. But I'm really keen, I really want to see someone do it. So I'm really hoping this video gives hope to the old Sea Shield users, or maybe other people that want to explore its full potential, and showing how crazy this item can truly be, at least in a clip. I want to see someone do 100,000 damage in a single second with this shield. Actually, you know what? The player in the shadows could have done it if they had a cursed flame up. Okay, I want to see someone do 200,000 damage in 1 second. Okay, maybe that's asking for too much. I don't know, man. Just do your thing. Comment on what you think about this shield. Do you think it has potential, or am I being an idiot again? Let me know. Thanks so much to the patrons and supporters on Twitch. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on my stream or in my next video. Peace.